Welcome to the first. It is September the 4th, 2024. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here. Last time we tried to do this show, StreamYard went down, which is what we use to stream the shows on video. And so we couldn't do it. Well, it's back and we're good to go. And we've got plenty to talk about here in a post-Labor Day edition of the show. So thanks for being here, whether you're watching live or catch us after the fact on the podcast platform of your choosing. We have three topics today. We're trying to fit in two main topics and then one kind of smaller topic. And want to talk first of all about the big news that came out this morning. First of all, saw from Eamon Lynch, I believe, at Golf Week. Probably had the exclusive on this, but ultimately it obviously went everywhere in pretty short order. So we'll talk about that big news. And then we're going to talk about President's Cup picks from yesterday and just kind of President's Cup in general. And then one thing at the end that I thought was a very interesting tidbit that I saw yesterday from Bob Harig over at Sports Illustrated. In an unlikely place, we'll talk about that at the tail end of the show. So first, let's start with, I guess, the big news of the day, which is that there's going to be a PGA Tour versus LIV Golf match, and that's coming in December. So Eamon Lynch, I believe, had the exclusive on this, and we're going to see Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler on one side teaming up, and they're going to take on Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau in some version of the match, whether it's like the match 10 or it starts a new series or whatever it is. That's not to be clear, but it's going to be in the same kind of vein as the other 9 versions of the match. That it'll be on Warner Brothers properties, it'll be on TNT and TBS and all those types of things, and it's going to be in Vegas like the others of recent memory, whether that's going to be at the Wynn Golf Club or at Shadow Creek or somewhere else TBD. My guess would be the Wynn. I love the Wynn. They're great. No reason not to have it there. It is a really nice kind of confined place to have a match like this, especially an exhibition match. We don't know the format yet, so we don't know if this is going to be alternate shot, best ball, match play, medal play. Maybe it's some kind of combination of the things. We don't know those things yet. Lynch's reporting has it that this event is going to be in the middle of December, which kind of runs fair and true to what we've seen in the past with the most recent iterations of the match around Thanksgiving or just thereafter. And this is going to be pretty fun. There's no purse for the actual match based on the reporting, but obviously there's an appearance fee. They're not doing this for nothing. So you're going to have a bunch of players who have been in different facets of the match. I don't believe Scheffler has been in one previously, but I could be wrong about that. But you've got Bryson and Brooks, who faced off directly in one of these matches when just a little bit after their dust up in social media and all the stuff that came around about that. And now they're teammates representing LIV Golf because they've kind of, I guess, patched things up. And then you've got McIlroy, who obviously was a key component in the kind of early setup of these things, and then having Scottie Scheffler take part, who's clearly the world number one, clearly the best player on the planet. And if you wanted to have a match that pitted the PGA Tour's best against LIV Golf's best, this is it, right? I mean, you have to have Scottie. You could have Rory, you could have Xander. You're going to pick Rory because he's a bigger name, right? So you've got those two guys. But obviously on the LIV Golf side, the most accomplished players in that league in the present day are the best player, Bryson DeChambeau, and the best player who's played on LIV in terms of tournament victories. That's Brooks Koepka, and he's won a major since going to LIV. So that means something on top of Bryson winning his second U.S. Open this year at Pinehurst. So in McIlroy, he has opponents who has one more major than him, and McIlroy knows it, and one's the other guy who beat him for the U.S. Open title this year, which is also interesting. I don't think Scheffler has beef with anybody in this match. It just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. But at least you've got the world number one. He's probably not the world number 2 right now. It's obviously Xander Schauffele would be the world number 2 at the moment, even if he'd be 1 and 1A. But you've got a very highly recognizable figure, and then you've got the two highest achievers on LIV. You could talk about Dustin Johnson, I guess, from a career standpoint, right? But I think Brooks obviously has more majors, and Bryson has just as many. You could talk about Cam Smith, but he has not played nearly to the same level in 23 and 24 as he did in 2022 that earned him the big LIV Golf contract in the first place. You could talk about Taylor Gooch, and we can all LOL about Taylor Gooch thinking that he deserves a spot here. And I think that's kind of fair to say that LOL is justified after 2024. So this is it. These are your all-stars. And I think this is a great thing. Uh, I I know there's going to be limited responses because people will go, well, we don't care about LIV, so I don't care about the whole thing. And that's fine. But having this is going to be an interesting thing for a lot of people. You may not like it, but it's going to draw eyeballs. And that's the reality of it. Golf needs eyeballs. Golf needs intriguing matchups and formats and rivalries. And we've been deprived of a fair amount of that over the last couple of years because of players going to LIV Golf and then not being able to compete against each other, except in these 4 major championships that we have a year. Also, golf can get kind of stale when you play 72-hole tournaments all the time. So having a match like this is interesting. What we don't know is if this is going to be co-sanctioned or blessed by the PGA Tour, like the original iterations of the match, where Tiger and Phil went and sought out the PGA Tour's approval for these matches because of a variety of different issues related to that. But Bryson and Brooks are, their PGA Tour membership isn't what it is compared to Scottie and Rory. So how do the marketing rights get handled? How does all that stuff get handled? I'm sure that's probably been negotiated without the tour's blessing. So you just deal with the players individually, is my guess. But we've got this on the heels of LIV announcing earlier in the morning what their schedule is going to look like, at least for the first 4 events of 2025, I guess it would be. Man, that's crazy. But their schedule really tells you some truth. And this isn't a topic on the rundown, but I do want to talk about it for just a couple of minutes. So you've got 4 tournaments for next year on the LIV schedule known. We expect there to be another 14 tournament schedule, right? Like this is the 4th season, but the 3rd LIV Golf League season. You're expecting 14 tournaments. You've got 4. Like this year, they start in February, and they're not starting in North America this year, which is a running theme through what I expect you will see for the 2025 LIV Golf schedule. The first event is in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, in the capital, at Riyadh Golf Club. Then they're going to have their next event just a couple of weeks later in Adelaide, Australia, which is by far their most popular, most successful event. Then a couple of weeks later, they'll go to Hong Kong to return there after a debut this season. And then the following week, they will go to Singapore, which I believe they've had on the schedule every year that they've had this thing. And then they won't come to the United States for an event until April, leading into the Masters. So the first 4 events of the schedule, more than a fourth of the season, you're going to play that before you get to the United States. From what it sounds like, based on schedules, the preliminary schedules that were handed out to players, there are only going to be 5 LIV Golf events in the United States next year. Now, what that makeup is to be seen, right? There's still 2 events on the LIV schedule, the quote-unquote individual championship, which will be in the Chicagoland area, and then you've got the team championship in Dallas this year, back-to-back events in America to end the season. They have 7 American events this year, so half the schedule is in the United States. Next year, it sounds like they will have less than half of that schedule, more like a third of the schedule. And I think this tells you the realities of the business of LIV, because LIV has found its most commercial success. It has found its best sponsorship success. It's found its best embraced by the fans in international events, right? The event in Australia has been a boon for LIV Golf. It's been a great marketing tool. It's been a great kind of validator to them of what they have accomplished. The event in Spain has done well. The event in England has done very well, and it's been a mainstay of the LIV Golf schedule. So those 3 international events are proof positive that LIV can be embraced by other markets. But if you're getting rid of 2 American events, let's just say, to what you are replacing them with, that's of great intrigue, because all the events that we know so far for next year are ones we've seen before. I mean, we haven't seen Riyadh as a host for the Saudi Arabian event, but Saudi Arabia has hosted an event each season. So this is what we know from LIV. And the TV audience doesn't seem to change drastically in the United States when it's pre-taped, tape delayed coverage on the CW versus something that's shown live. It's more or less the same, unless the event kind of goes to a playoff. And even then, what we saw with Rahm and Brooks, that didn't net out a whole lot at the Greenbrier. So I think LIV has realized their best path forward is to embrace what Greg Norman had sought out to do 30 some odd years ago in trying to create the world tour, so to speak. And that is to go to international destinations, try to find a business pathway there, struggle is the TV money is not as good elsewhere as it is in the United States, and certainly sporting money isn't the same elsewhere as it is in the United States. So trying to make that work is going to be a struggle. But I think LIV has realized, hey, we've got to pivot toward the international audience and try to make the best of our American events. Nashville was a success. They've had some successes other places, especially in the first year. Chicago and Boston were very well received. They're not really part of the schedule anymore. Golf courses are off the schedule. The New Jersey one did pretty well the first time around in terms of gathering attention and fan interest, albeit with political overtones. So where they go from here, that's kind of your indication of that. And I wonder how players will feel about that. We'll probably get more reaction to that over the next couple of weeks. Now let's talk about President's Cup picks. We got those from the international side and from the U.S. side. We got those over 2 hours yesterday. I was planning to do a version of the show as kind of a reaction to the picks, right? 6 from each side, 6 from Mike Weir, 6 from Jim Furyk, both very much devoid of charisma as public speakers. I'm sure they're lovely people in person. I've talked to each in person. They're an enjoyable conversation, but they don't just jump out the screen at you, right? So they started this with golf today. They were going to have the pick unveil, and they have Mike Weir come on and unveil his picks. And he's got a good team. He's got Mac Hughes and Corey Connors and Taylor Pendrith to represent Canada at Royal Montreal. You've got Christian Bezadenhout, who should be on the team, has been playing great, world-class level talent. Then you've got Minwoo Lee, who is an absolute must in terms of kind of a firecracker guy who's young, who's going to be a part of this for a long time to come. And then you got Siwoo Kim with a veteran presence who should have been the 6th guy. So that all made sense. And then you figured, okay, well, we're going to go right to Jim Furyk, who's going to tell us who his 6 picks are. And instead, they spent like an hour talking to other people, the people who made the team through the internationals. They had Pendrith on, and they had Minwoo Lee on. And I mean, they had a bunch of players on. And you're like, what are we doing? Just get to the picks. And then they never got to, they had a whole hour of the show go by, and then here comes Jim Furyk for his picks. And really, Jim Furyk abdicated the responsibility of captain's picks. He just picked 7 through 12. That's all he did. He picked Keegan Bradley and Brian Harmon and Tony Finau and Max Homa and Russell Henley. And I forget I don't remember how I said all 6 there, but he basically just went 7 to 12, called it a day, and that was it. I think some people were surprised that Justin Thomas didn't make the team. He's 19th in points. He had a horrible first part of the cycle, pretty decent this year, got to the Tour Championship by the skin of his teeth, but not so brilliant over this year to overshadow what was last year. And JT's been in tons of these matches, right? Like, in one sense, the President's Cup should be about setting the stage for the future of the Ryder Cup until the internationals start winning these things. And so getting Russell Henley some experience is great. Obviously, Brian Harmon got his Ryder Cup debut last year in Italy. Max Homa is a surprising pick, in my opinion, because he has struggled mightily this year. He has not been good driving the golf ball. He's had a lot of problems playing golf. He's been very visibly emotional on the golf course playing golf, very frustrated. But he also was one of the bright spots of a losing American effort in Italy in the Ryder Cup. You expect this to kind of resurrect him? Is this that kind of pick? Max Homa has already said he's going to play the Pro Tour Championship, which is the renamed Fortinet Championship. He's won that multiple times. It's an event really for him designed to try to get him back on the right track. See if he can't figure it out at a place he loves and plays well and has won at multiple times. Get himself together. And that's kind of what the Fortinet Pro Tour web or Fries.com Open has been over the years in these President's Cup years, has been a place you send a struggling player to go play in hopes that they find something, whether that's JT or Max Homa or Tiger Woods. I mean, name them over the years of players who show up in a President's Cup year to play that first event of the fall schedule so that they can demonstrate that they did something good and they found their form again or what have you. I don't know if you would have been better served picking JT. I don't think so. I think getting some new blood in there is a good thing. Having some differing blood from the Ryder Cup team is a good thing. Keegan Bradley is no longer an assistant captain. He's been stripped of that. Jim Furyk says he's going to appoint someone else, which I think is a little bit of a fumble, to be honest. I mean, Keegan Bradley wants to be a playing captain at the Ryder Cup next year, and he might find himself in position to do that. What better way to even evaluate whether you want to try to do that is to by being a playing assistant captain for the President's Cup. So taking that away from him, I don't agree with. I don't like, and I realize that the internationals could have spun it the other way as a slap in the face, right? Oh, well, you guys think you're so good, you're going to have a playing vice captain. F you. We're going to do that. But also, you had Tiger Woods as a playing captain in 2019, and the Americans won, albeit in a close one. So I think would have made sense to let Keegan still be the assistant captain there. Still, to have 2 hours to explain all of this to people and to not have really much charisma jumping off the page. I mean, Mike Weir, what I thought was very interesting, and Adam Stanley's a great Canadian golf journalist. He's kind of the man of Canadian journalism at the moment, along with Bob Weeks, the two kind of top level guys in terms of Canadian golf journalism on TV. John McCarthy's also great. Shout out to John as well. But in terms of Adam's reaction to what Mike Weir had to say when he had to talk about leaving Adam Hadwin and Nick Taylor off the team for his side, it was like, oh, well, Mike Weir is very emotional. And I swear to you, it looked like me talking to you, like borderline deadpan from an American perspective because we're so emotive. But for a Canadian, I guess that through that lens looked very emotional. And I think leaving off Hadwin and Taylor for a match in Canada for two 36-year-old guys who they're not going to get a lot more cracks at this. And I don't know if they're ever going to get another crack at playing the President's Cup in Canada. I think that's a shame for those guys, especially after Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open. There would have been such an outpouring for him, and to have been so successful in his career, and then to have Adam Hadwin not playing is unfortunate, but I think that's a fair decision. So you've got two sides now. You've got 12 players on each side. I can foresee a world where the internationals win this, and that has me interested in the President's Cup. I know that the score lines have been closer in the last, really, since 2017. 2017 was the debacle where it could have been won on Saturday if a couple of things went a little differently for the Americans. And that was kind of the low point. That's the nadir, right? And then it got better in 2019. The Americans had to come back in the final day. Then you obviously had COVID, the pandemic of 2022. The Americans won, but it felt like a much more spirited rally of building blocks for the future of this event. That was a good thing. I think that there is an opportunity here for the Americans to lose. It's not a great one, right? You still have Xander Schauffele, and you still have Scottie Scheffler heading the team. You've got guys with Ryder Cup experience. You've got guys who are generally better players, but the average ranking between the two sides is much more compact now. And yes, you do leave off LIV players. You don't have Joaquin Niemann. You don't have Cam Smith. You don't have Louis Oosthuizen. Those guys have had, especially, Louis won on LIV. Niemann's had a great year on LIV so far, even though that's kind of petered out after the beginning. So you're missing out on some potential really good players, but I think there is an opportunity here for an upset. I don't know how likely it is, but there's an opportunity, and I think that is a good thing. There needs to be doubt. We've talked about this since the existence of this thing from 1994 or whatever. Until the reality sets in that the internationals are a legitimate threat to win this each and every time and do it, this is just kind of nonchalant for a lot of American interests. So I hope that it's competitive. I hope that it's difficult for the Americans to win. I, in a weird way, kind of hope they lose, because that sets the stage for the future of this thing to be a little bit brighter. So we'll see what happens there. But at least those things are set. Also, I wanted to talk just a brief second, give a shout out for the Solheim Cup. It's coming not this weekend, but the following weekend in the Northern Virginia area over at Robert Trent Jones Golf Club in Centerville, Virginia. All the teams are set. We didn't get to talk about that on the show. It should be a really interesting 12-on-12 match. A lot of the teams are the same, but there is a fair amount of turnover, even in just 1 year's difference between having a Solheim Cup in Spain and having a Solheim Cup in Northern Virginia. I was at the one last year in Spain. It was just a wonderful experience to watch in person. It was the first Solheim Cup I'd ever seen, and it was one in Spain. It's really great. If you're in the DMV area and you want to go check it out, get your tickets. You will have a blast, I promise. But I also say that because I got to watch the 2023 Solheim Cup last night on TV for the first time. I had not seen the coverage on TV really at all, in the last year. So it was kind of cool to see Finca Cortesine from the perspective of they were trying to tell that story on TV as opposed to what I was seeing walking around watching the matches. My wife was, we were seeing that day, trying to kind of figure out whether the Americans could win, whether they would tie, whether they would lose, and what happened down the stretch with Caroline Headwall to kind of do her part to basically save the cup. I think still incredible. Maybe one of the greatest moments of last year. So hopefully we get something cool like that in just a little bit more than a week's time in Northern Virginia. So check that out. If you can get there, go to the Solheim Cup website, check it out, get some tickets. All right, last thing to talk about today. And I thought this was really interesting, and I did not hear about this except for listening to the Shotgun Start this morning. So shout out to the Shotgun Start. I don't always catch Shotgun Start, but I've been listening to the show on the Vegas Stats and Information Network for years called Follow the Money. Follow the Money is a great show. It's a really good kind of way to kind of frame sports in the morning. But they have moved to afternoons because they've done it for 7 years from Las Vegas, getting up 2 in the morning. So now they have a new show. New show's not as good. So listen to the Shotgun Start, trying to find a new morning alternative as I listen to something to take the kids to school. And I forget whether it was Andy or Brendan who said this, but they were talking about Bob Herrig from Sports Illustrated jumping into the comments in some tweets from the Fried Egg about the Tour Championship format. And Bob reported, let it out kind of in conversation, that we really have Justin Thomas to thank for the Tour Championship starting strokes format. And I didn't know this. And not sure that I've ever seen it written anywhere either. And I read a lot of stuff about golf, right? I'd never seen this story relayed. So either I missed it or it was never told or some combination, I guess. But Harry relayed that when the starting strokes format was announced in 2018, that it was coming for 2019. I think a lot of people kind of retconned it and thought, okay, well, this is because Tiger won the Tour Championship, but Justin Rose won the FedEx Cup, and that differing scene, now everyone cheering for Tiger winning the tournament, but him not winning the season-long race, the quote-unquote biggest prize on the PGA Tour, going to Justin Rose, that was a scene they didn't want to have again. But it wasn't those two guys and that outcome that created that situation. You had to go back a year prior to create that situation in 2017. And that's when Justin Thomas won his FedEx Cup. However, that was in the era when you had the points reset. So the top 5 in the standings had the best chance to win the Tour Championship and therefore win the FedEx Cup. Like if you won the Tour Championship from the top 5, you won the FedEx Cup regardless. But outside of that, you could still win the FedEx Cup if you didn't win the Tour Championship. And there were a variety of scenarios, but you could still have a winner of the Tour Championship and a winner of the FedEx Cup. And in that year, Justin Thomas came to the 72nd hole, par 5, 18th at Eastlake. All he needed was a birdie to force a playoff, eagle to win. It's an easy hole, as you've seen, for these guys, for the best of the world. And he winds up making a par there to lose to Xander Schauffele by a shot. So Xander Schauffele wins the tournament on 12 under. Justin Thomas is second at 11 under. But Justin Thomas is the FedEx Cup champion, so he should be jacked. You know, he's getting $15 million for winning the FedEx Cup, I believe, at the time. He should be happy and jumping around cheering. Instead, he's mad because he didn't win the tournament because he let himself down on the 72nd hole, easy par 5. And the whole crowd's happy because Xander Schauffele won, and they're cheering for him because he won the tournament, and he won, like $1.6 million-ish for winning the tournament at the time, which sounds like child's play now. But he won that purse, but he won the tournament, and that's how people understood it on TV. And Justin Thomas understood it. He lost the tournament, and so he was mad about it, even though he won the season-long race. And so the tour said to themselves, we can't have this outcome again. We can't have someone mad that they lost the tournament overshadowing the fact that they won the FedEx Cup. So Justin Thomas is the reason that we have the starting strokes format. They wanted to make it so obvious and so clear to the people watching on TV and in person that the winner of the tournament was also the winner of the FedEx Cup. And they did not want to ever have 2 different outcomes again. Now, you can like that. You can dislike that. There's probably more people that dislike it than like it. But that is why we have the starting strokes format. So if you want to change, you need a player to get mad about it and do something about it. Throw a big old fit and make it embarrassing for everybody so that it doesn't happen once again. I thought that was very interesting, so I wanted to relay that to you because I'm pretty sure most of you have probably not heard that. This week, we do not have a lot in golf, right? It's Wednesday. Normally, we're thinking about tournaments. The PGA Tour is obviously off. The Corn Ferry Tour is off this week, though we do have a new episode of the Road to French Lick that'll come out later today. So if you want to check that out on our website or YouTube channel, that would be appreciated. James Nitties is our guest commentary for Corn Ferry Tour events on Golf Channel. Former Corn Ferry Tour winner himself, PGA Tour player. Great dude. Was a great guest. Great to have him on to talk about the Corn Ferry Tour finals. Then on the PGA Tour champion, they've got the Ascension Charity Classic. Brandt Snedeker, I don't think might be his debut. I don't think it's his debut, but Brandt Snedeker is now a member of the PGA Tour champions. That's in St. Louis. That's Friday to Sunday. And then on the DP World Tour, we've got one of my favorite tournaments of the year, the Omega European Masters, the old Swiss Open. But they've been playing this for, as long as I can remember, at Crans-sur-Sierre Golf Club in Crans, Montana, Switzerland, a ski resort. It's beautiful, incredible scenery, really fun mountain golf course, not particularly long. It should be a good tournament. It's the tournament of the week, and there isn't a lot of golf action, but that's going to be my favorite thing to tune into this week. We'll get into another show tomorrow. We'll talk about another couple of topics for you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Appreciate it. Leave a comment, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Love to respond to you. Helps us reach more people as well. You can follow me on social media at Ryan Ballingy on Twitter or X, Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I'm at Ryan Ballingy Golf on Facebook and YouTube. And Golf News, that's the handle on every single social media handle. Catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on 2 Off.